minds is absolutely incredible. They are called the inner world or memories where they keep our intelligence. In most of all, our deepest thoughts, there are dreams or wanteds. When you think of mine, what do you think? For me, I think minds are like goats, where they keeps our inner secrets, where it lives in our brain and stores every information that we have. Maybe it's completely important, or maybe they disagreed. But mostly, when we find minds that are absolutely keep things from us, like intelligence, like our actions, it's a completely universe that is accessible to only you, and unique to us. Because how? Because nobody knows that two minds are absolutely the same, right? Think of your friends. Have you noticed a friend are absolutely the same thinking as you? Maybe you're about to think of a taco, but then suddenly think of apple. And sometimes people think of minds or voices, or process their voices of nowhere or non-verbal. They feel the voices, or do they actually, when they read it, they have a monologue, or when they read the storybooks, suddenly speaking to them in their minds. For me, when I think of minds, when I do something like this, I have an imaginary voice that was absolutely like a storytelling book. And my must process things like that to make it feel the same. It's actually my own mind. I don't want to share everything with me. But if you have an example of two minds, is it the same? If you ask them about the apple, what's your thought? Maybe it's void. It's hanging in the void. Or it's very vague. Or it's feel weird. Or maybe you can't see it at all. Just try to feel them in the inner universe. Or maybe it's just a weird complication that you make up. Squiggly eyes, dented teeth. But our mind here are complex on Earth, and we plus this with animal mind. Our minds we see here is controlled by everything. And we start by understanding the first of the two parts. One, our children deal with the world. What do we start in history? To me, in dinosaur world, in the books, we actually look at science. We see our life starts with a cell. A completely different cell, not a normal cell, that eats plankton and stuff, or I know what to be. But these life cells, and just navigate, and they said this world is absolutely dangerous. But when you think, do they have a mind inside? To our scientists in our complete today's world, we said and prove that they don't. Because if they have an absolute mind, then they will just have a neuron and said, you are hungry and you need to explore this world and find anything you have. Just try to move. But they didn't, just because these cells we found and we still have them and we will try to observe them. They just try to look at them, they try to wiggle and just wait for foods to come, or predators. But if you were double our time to this time today, we will see birds, us, and different animals and behaviors that shows that we're complicated minds because we have different actions that delay us and kind of like, and these minds control us without any of us of knowing. Or do we think we have a mind? Or is it just animated? We start at inner space. To me, we start from some examples that could clear what is absolutely our mind. We start with, for example, of a bee or a honeybee, which you see it's pretty normal. But don't you think a honeybee is actually don't have a mind? Because these start with incredible lives and minds to start with. How would they build a honeybee, or how would they trap flowers across the grave without them even remembering each part of the flower? With scientists, we study them and see them tracking each flower and remembering each of them as kindly as they can. And these we also recognize that the home is broken and you have to move only just about 10 kilometers above their home. And how do they communicate? And how do they have such a mind to compete with others? By dancing, of course. But as we understand, even though we see all these beings dancing for nothing, but if we study further, we understand there are minds. Because minds, they help us have intelligence, and this intelligence is finding flowers, memorizing, trying to understand and communicate each other. This is what a mind is. It's kind of really hard, but it teaches us about what truly an inner mind and a core is. Also, we have a mind that has more complexity than just a normal bee. First, we show you a bee is only have 1 million neurons. But while here, another example is octopus, which have about 500 million neurons. What does most of the neurons go? It go to its arms, and it all have different abilities that have a mind in them. And plus, the other neurons will go basically to his head, and his head or brain will manage tasks and do more difficult than they imagined. While it's mad, like his head may not have a mind, but think about it again, because a mind, this arms of them octopus control a task. First arm maybe eat, remove, or second arm maybe attack and grab. Because these are just experience of what we might feel, but it was a very sophisticated look to us understand about these billion minds. So in conclude of these examples, we see minds as our definition of minds, and if we understand here neurons, the more neurons, complicated and more substantial minds. Because here, compared to the honeybee, octopuses are more incredible. Well, we're not comparing, but they have multitask. They can multitask. At least we move on to the second part. Is an internal universe.
đang review.
Start with human fact. We are human. We are human beings. But when we are born, we look cute. But we actually as a human meat that was jealous. In 18 to 24 months, we are about to recognize ourselves or our arms or what usually ours were actually us, and we recognize ourselves. Secondly, we'll recognize who are we being with. We don't have a behavior that angers all the time, because we just substantially just recognize for ourselves that we human beings as a mom and dads are important, and we really need to live with them for survival. The last thing do we want to prove that why do we live together as a group, as a community, as a society, as so normal, because we substantially have to think of us, how we feel if we talk together, or how we might feel if we tell something, or how we might act. And if we act that way, then how the other person will feel and how it will hurt us. This will we think of each other's feelings a lot and help us to understand each other and know what might come in the future. This leads us to see that these people are kind, or how they might act in the future that we want to live with them. This is a very good communication for social people, and this is for preservative. The most important thing we understand about uniqueness and collaborativeness, which will show you what a mind truly is in this intentional universe. So the conclusion we learned today is absolutely important about how mind is definition, unique, incredible, how everything can be in the source of us. So thank you for listening.